So yes, I did turn off that little chirping sound in the background that someone was nice enough to point out. I've been ignoring it so long that I don't even hear it anymore. That smoke detector, and it was just chirping throughout my videos, and probably the last several of them, and I just didn't even notice. But apparently somebody did, and so that has been disconnected now. So that's what I get for buying batteries at the dollar store. You know, they don't last long. I want to write my hi comment on here to make sure that when people comment, I actually see what they say. Now it is 3:39 a.m. here, so I don't expect a whole lot of people to show up. I am going to be talking a little bit about loyalty, about walking on eggshells around people that seem to feel like they have the right to control you. And there seem to be a lot of people like this. Generally speaking, they're usually female. However, that's not always the case. I have discovered even here in the last week, this can affect men as well. And it kind of sucks because it's emotional-based thinking, and I am personality type INTJ, and if you don't know what that means, I'm just going to read a little description to you. And INTJs are idea people. Anything is possible. Everything is negotiable. Okay, yeah, that's pretty true. Feeling has a modest inner room, 2 doors down from the most eminent intuition. It doesn't get out much, but lends its influence on behalf of causes which are good and worthy and humane. Well, okay. Extroverted sensing. There was something on here though that maybe I think. Oh, there it is. Okay. We do not always have the kind of natural empathy that some others do. The intuitive function can often act as a good substitute by synthesizing the probable meanings behind such things as tone of voice, turn of phrase, and facial expression. Yes. Now see, this is how we look at people, okay? When we try to judge people and understand people and relate to people, we don't really relate to them like they do. We look at them as a resource and as a something to try to develop our knowledge and understanding better. So we don't have this intuitive feeling for other people that most people do. I'll read a little bit more about this because I think some of this actually makes pretty good sense. Many INTJs do not readily grasp the social rituals. It's a lot like Asperger's, you know. In fact, I said I had Asperger's before I found out about INTJ. I did take the test when I was a teenager, but I didn't remember the initials and that sort of thing. Wasn't real important to me when I was in high school and stuff, but okay, so INTJs do not readily grasp the social rituals. For instance, they tend to have little patience and less understanding of such things as small talk and flirtation, which most types consider half the fun of a relationship. To complicate matters, INTJs are usually extremely private people. That's why I can sit up here all day in this really hot attic and talk to you when everybody else is downstairs, and eventually they get tired of it and they're like, you got to come downstairs and spend time with us. And it's not that I dislike them or don't want to be around them. It's just that I really like being alone, and it's just part of who I am. So dealing with other people means having to deal with their peculiar quirks, their desire for bonding and emotions, and that sort of thing. And we really don't have a whole lot of that. Said, like it says here, perhaps the most fundamental problem, however, is that INTJs really want people to make sense. Yeah, and that's the problem right there. People do not make sense, okay? This sometimes results in peculiar naivety, paralleling that of many feeling people. Only instead of expecting inexhaustible affection and empathy from a romantic relationship, the INTJ will expect inexhaustible reasonability and directness. Okay, yeah, so that's what we like. We want directness. We want people to tell us what they want, how they want it. Hugh Squires is on my chat. Oh my gosh, on my video. I cannot believe this. This is Hugh Squire. And Hugh, you are an honored guest here, buddy. I didn't know you were coming, but that's awesome. Always glad to have you on here. I am not talking about amazing things today. I'm really just ranting about some stuff in my life. I'm not even decoding anything. Wow. I am going to have to introduce Hugh here. Hugh, this is the guy. Actually, I am kind of some of the part of meeting you, Hugh, is partly what is on my mind while I'm making this. It might make sense more as I talk about it, because I've actually had some people who disfriended me because they didn't want me to introduce your story because they're afraid of what could happen to them, to others. And I'm talking about walking on eggshells and stuff like that. But so I was talking about my personality type, which is INTJ on the Meigs-Bryer test, and how that what's most important to me is reasonableness, understanding truth, and getting the story out and trying to make sense of the world. And so that bonding and emotional bonding and things like loyalty really aren't all that important to me at all. And I had some experiences that I'm going to talk about that really make me feel like loyalty is something that is emotional manipulation, something that shouldn't be used to try to keep your friends close. Now, I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. I'm not going to point people out or anything. Of course, Hugh probably has already knows this through Amy, who may have told you. But Hugh Squires' story, man, this is something. And I have about 50 pages of notes from you now. I write as fast as I can when you're talking to me. But Hugh literally has some amazing stories. And I mean things that the world needs to know. And so I will, of course, put those things on my Facebook page without reservation because I feel like they are things that the people need to know. To try to put it together. And Hugh, I apologize if I get anything wrong. Amy and I have been talking, and I'm trying to sort things out chronologically, get the big picture of your life, and try to understand it more thoroughly. But I guarantee you I'm going to get some things wrong because I don't have it all together yet. Okay, so 50 pages, but they're sort of hit and miss, random, and I'm trying to sort them out, straighten them out a little bit at a time with Amy. It's going to take a while to get all those facts together. And for anybody that might wonder after I tell them how amazing the story is, that they might wonder, well, if it's true. Well, so far the things that Hugh's been telling me, I've been searching the places and the names as best I can, and I haven't found anything that contradicts anything that Hugh says. That's certainly for sure. So I'm definitely saying that Hugh's story is panning out. Now, for those that don't know, this is what I'm going to try to say about Hugh's story, the best as I understand it. And apologize if I get any facts wrong. Feel free to correct me if you like. But Hugh was taken as a 4-year-old boy by the descendants or the family members, the children of a Michigan governor, and not just the children, but also some very influential friends, and was tortured and raped and chained to a toilet at the house in Michigan, belonging to the children of one of these former governors. The guy was the governor back in the 1800s, so it wasn't him. It was like in the 1890s. Osborne was the governor's name, and so it was obviously not him. He would have been like in his upper 80s or 90s or something like that. It was his children and some of the others. And he gave me a list of names, which I could get out, I guess, but I don't want to go into that much detail right at this second. But I don't know, maybe I might, because I do have a file on you right here. Let's see. I'm keeping all your information in a file. As I do all my decodes and all my important information, I do, this is stuff I've been learning. But here's the Hugh Squire story right here. But so far of everything I've written down from you. And that's just the beginning. Now, these people that captured and tortured and raped Hugh, They're prominent people, and they are either the people, or in some cases, people that are related to other people who actually are responsible for the Kennedy assassination. Now that's quite a big story. But if you think that's not big enough, Hugh was also used to own the property where daggone it, his name just left my brain. The guy that they can't find his body up in Michigan. Daggone it. Oh, there's the names. Yeah. Dang it. What's the guy's name that shoot. See, I wasn't expecting to go into this, so my brain wasn't on it at the moment. What's the guy's name at the union leader? What's the union leader's name up in Michigan? That Jimmy Hoffa. There it is. Okay, so if I got this right, Hugh Squire actually owns the land, or used to own the land where Jimmy Hoffa is buried. So he knows pretty precisely about where he was buried, because the house that used to be there isn't there, but there's a G&G or G&T auto. I found in that city in Michigan, I found a G&T auto in New Haven. I did not find a G&G, but I did find a G&T auto. So I think maybe that might be the one you were talking about. Also, to make more things interesting about Hugh's story is that okay, so you were captured, you were raped by the children of the people who assassinated Kennedy, which is just amazing. You own the property where Jimmy Hoffa is buried, and was in his union for a day when he was assassinated, which is pretty amazing. And that's your, I think if I remember this right, I think it was your wife's mother used to date Jimmy Hoffa, if I'm not mistaken, which is that's just amazing. But this and this just gets even more and more interesting, this story, because Hugh was going to be interviewed by John B. Wells, which is one of the Coast to Coast people. And now one day, I used to listen to Coast to Coast all the time. He's that was like my proto conspiracy theory stuff days. Okay, back when I was delivering newspapers in the middle of the night, I'd listen to Coast AM, and there was George Norrie and who's the guy before that? Art Bell, Art Bell originally founded it, took it over. I think George Norrie still does it, but also fill-in host was John B. Wells. And one day I noticed that John B. Wells wasn't on there anymore. And I just found out here in the last week from Hugh what happened. Well, it just turns out that John B. Wells was going to interview and do Hugh's story and was fired from Coast to Coast AM because he was going to do Hugh's story. And here's Hugh right here on my channel. So I think that's pretty amazing, just to be real honest with you. Not only that, but besides John B. Wells, there was also Mars. What was Mars' first name? Was it Jim Mars? I gotta look through them. Daggone it. Well, Mars was another Marrs. I can't think of his first name all of a sudden, but he wrote some pretty important books, and he was killed because he was going to do Hugh's story, apparently. Jim Mars, thank you, Jim. Yeah. So I only know a little bit about Jim Mars, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's the one that was outing the Jews for a lot of their activities. I think he was a Christian author, if I'm not mistaken, and a radio guy, if he's the right guy I'm thinking of. So not only that, so you got all these amazing coincidences going on with Hugh Squire, and I also noticed when I was taking my kids to guitar practice the other day, that I saw on some of the sound equipment, Squire Electronics or something like that. And if I didn't know any better, I'd suspect that's probably related to you, since they use your name so often. I even kind of wondered if the gospel singer Squire Parsons might even have some connection to your name. I don't know if that's the case, or maybe that one's because Squire's a really weird first name. I don't know. So your last name, but for him, Squire Parsons, that was his first name. So I had to wonder if maybe that was related to the story. And the Squire Yeah. Okay. Yeah, correct. So, all right. So anyway, what I was here talking about today was I was talking about how I'm not doing. I wasn't really planning on doing decodes or anything. I was just talking about loyalty, about logic, and about how my personality type is such that I like results. I like answers. I like to understand things, and it doesn't matter to me that when other people, you know, they want me to walk on eggshells around them, or they want me to tiptoe through their personality, or navigate their minefield to be around them. Yeah, you own. Yeah, the college. Yeah, and feel free to add any more details you like, Hugh, because we'll definitely discuss them as much as you'd like to discuss them. Um, I'm definitely very much into your story, and would love to get this to as many people as possible. So yeah, that was pretty amazing too. And there was a story about the college uh, president or something. If you can remind me of that. So yeah, you had connections with the Christian college, and you said that a lot of the some of what I was going to talk about and the loyalty thing comes from the Christian college that I went to, where they were essentially emotionally manipulating people into saying that you had to be loyal. Any dog could be loyal. They would always say, and a lot of misbehavior happened because you were just expected to be loyal and not question the leader and that kind of craziness. So it's not surprising that this has happened in other places. But Hugh also knew, didn't you say you knew, who's the big evangelist, Billy Graham? I think, did you say you knew him and had some contact with him at one time? I could be mistaken. It'd take me a long time to find all these, go through all these notes, but I still have a lot more to go through and probably a lot more to get from you. So, yeah, next door to Hazel Park, and yes on Billy Graham there. But and I've even seen some of your videos where you wrote some gospel songs and that sort of thing, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, many pastors, yeah, Jimmy and Tate. I figured that. I was thinking that Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. So they went to okay, and a lot of bad things happened at that college, didn't it? And Al Sharpton, well, okay, so that's where he got his reverend title from. Was from Macomb County Community College. That's interesting. Now, Hugh's family goes way back. He's got relatives he's related to, oh gosh, see, this is what happens. The Admiral Byrd, okay, the Navy guy that explored the South Pole. And Admiral Byrd, according to some accounts, discovered that the world is hollow inside. And now that's a big cold weather conspiracy theory. I don't know what I think about that. I'm just reporting to you what people say. You can Google his name and find all these stories on the internet. I know Coast to Coast talked about it, and I bet Hugh probably has some maybe some explanation of why they say Admiral Byrd went and said that the world is hollow and that sort of thing. And I think Admiral Byrd is reported to believe that the world is flat and that sort of thing. I don't even know if that's true, but I think people have said that. And no, I don't think the world's flat. I'm just saying that's what, that's what people say about him. But that could be a distortion because the more you get to know Hugh's story, you realize that they distort a lot of his ancestry because, well, I know why they distort your history, Hugh. I'm still foggy on why they distort the history of your ancestors. I know you're related to Admiral Byrd, but when I checked Admiral Byrd's history, he was related to the first person and the first ships that came over on the Mayflower, I think it said. So he has a very direct lineage to the founding of this country himself. So that means if you're related to him, you have that same lineage, just like you said. So that was one of the confirmations that I made of your story right there. So, hey, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I like this guy, man. He uses 47, and we were talking earlier today about the number 47, and I was posting up all kinds of pictures where I screenshot the number 47 as it's being used constantly in movies and propaganda. And Jeremiah Gabbard is really big into this 47 thing. He cooperates with Zach Hubbard's 47 campaign, and Zach Hubbard actually has a site where you can go and you can buy merchandise and no, I'm not trying to promote you go buy it. Okay. I don't make anything from, definitely not. I have no commission or anything or any connection to his personal sales site, but I'm just saying it because somebody called me out on that last time. Last time I was mentioning this 47 story. And Jeremiah Gabbard and how he cooperates with it. Somebody said, "Oh, you must be making a cut from all that merchandise." I'm like, no, I'm not making a cut from the merchandise. I'm just trying to point out that this number 47 thing is a very well known Gematrian number, and that it's used by government, and it usually has something to do with government conspiracy and that sort of thing. All the words in Gematria related to government, like Republican and Democrat and the Whig Party and White House and all kinds of words like that are equal 47 in Gematria. So it's not surprising that the sports teams have a 47 merchandise company, and I just was looking at it a minute ago. Not surprising at all. So Hugh says, here is a letter to me from my family bird. As my wife was murdered, he attempted to help me. Now that is something that I will have to connect to and save that information, because that's some really fascinating piece of history as well, Hugh. Yeah, for power and money, they confuse truth. Absolutely, Hugh. That's why they distort history in general, and probably your family's history as well. And then they want to distort your story because of what you know about the Kennedy assassination. So if you had a case in the Pentagon and you had something in the World Trade Centers, both on 9/11, and they shot that room in the Pentagon where your case was happening, your trial was set. The paperwork for that, plus you had, I don't know, trademark stuff, I think, in the World Trade Centers when it went down. Yeah, that's kind of big truth. That's the kind of thing that they would want to hide a whole lot. So all the media is hiding my truth because they redacted me from the Warren Report. 4 of my wives were murdered on the Manning Ranch. Yep. And created the JFK archives. Yeah, I mean, how many people do you know that have had 4 wives murdered? And your 4th wife was actually not your wife yet, I think. Wasn't she still your fiance at the point, if I'm not mistaken? 3 wives and 1 fiance, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's what the conclusion that Amy and I came to. But how many, and the stories of how they were murdered and dismembered, it's a horrible thing. And I felt bad for you, Hugh. Amy and I were talking about that. Your birthday is actually on July 4. I mean, what are the chances of that? I mean, you got this great American history and heritage, and you're actually born on July 4, and you got 2 fiancés and 2 wives. Okay, so another one wasn't your wife yet. Okay, so we'll get to the bottom of that too. Well, anytime if you feel like telling me, I'll add it to my notes later there, or we can talk about it later, however you like. So you had the civil rights case in the Pentagon. So that's what was in the Pentagon. And your receipts in the towers and FBI records in Building 7. So that's why they destroyed Building 7. Not to mention World Trade Centers 1, 2, and 7. 1, 2, 7 also resembles Pearl Harbor, which happened on 12/7. Not by coincidence, That 1, 2, and 7 is very important in numerology as well. Excuse me. So, and I have a whole history of 1, 2, 7 and how that goes. So they've been distorting 1, 2, and 7 in history for a long time. Let me see if I can find my file here on 1, 2, 7. I can read you some of how they've been using that 1, 2, 7, Hugh, for a long time. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 1, 2, 7 in Gematria, not surprisingly. Yeah, the Metonic cycle has 12 common years and 7 leap years. Those are the cycles of the moon. Hebrew has 12 of one type of letter and 7 of the other. And it also has 3 mothers, but I don't know what that means. 7 doubles and 12 simple letters. So you got the 1, 2, 7 there. And then 3, like the Trinity, 3 mothers. So you got that. Bavarian Illuminati equals 127. And like I said, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So from July 4th, which is Hugh's birthday, but July 4th, 1776, to George Bush's New World Order speech was 11,227 days. 127. The Tree of Life shooting was on 10/27. 127 right there, because zeros are not important in numerology. Zeros don't exist. Neither do decimal points. Zeros. And according to the rule of Colel, which is a rule in numerology, a rule that you have to learn if you're going to pretend like you understand this or want to understand it, then the rule of Colel is important because it specifically says that one off doesn't change the value of a word in numerology. So if you have 126 or 127, it means the same thing, or 128. If that's intended to be put together as part of your code that you're coding to send a message, then those numbers go together. Now Hugh doesn't know much about numerology, so I understand that. But for instance, Grenfell Tower that fell in England, it was right there. It had 127 flats. Another 127 and a big colossal fire where a bunch of people died, and they made sure they threw in that 127. So let's see. There were 7 hours and 22 minutes between World Trade Center 1 and World Trade Center 2 when it collapsed. 722 like pi. Well, 127 has the numbers of pi encoded in it, the 2 and the 7, because 22 divided by 7 is pi. And so, gosh, there's so many things we could say about pi. So that's another reason that 127 is important. And interestingly enough, pillar of fire, like the Grenfell Tower, was a big pillar of fire, and pillar of fire in the Old Testament is 127. So Hugh says a journalist from CBS actually helped murder one of my wives and the lawyer I hired to file murder charges with the district attorney. Yeah, Hugh, your story is so big, man, that I don't even get. I can't even remember all of it. It's just so many crazy things have happened to you. And I understand why people would be afraid to get that out. He was a White House journalist. Yeah, see, that's crazy. And did they steal your name for the for sound equipment? Because I saw, I think it was sound like speakers that said Squire on it. Did that have anything to do with you too? Because I know you own that big publishing company. And you even showed me the book with all the. You didn't show me the names, but you showed me the book that has all the names of so many of the celebrities that were associated with your publishing company, which was called Bottomline Publishing Company. Oh, you were talking about 127 all day, Jeremiah. Well, that's pretty interesting. So, under impeach Barack Obama. They stole even my birth name prior to 9/11. Yeah, they took everything from you, Hugh. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if you owned this big publishing company, you had plenty of money. I know you owned a lot of property in a lot of places. Essentially, I think you said they took essentially the value of, not literally trillions of dollars, but the value in copyrighted material of trillions of dollars worth of stuff. 2 trillion in theft. That's not very many people can say that. And now you're living, with somebody. I think, possibly hidden, I think, under surveillance and protection from, I don't know, some CIA asset or something is helping protect you in some way. Did I get that right? Yeah, 28,000. And you were showing me the book, and you were showing me your some of your royalty checks and that sort of thing. That's something you can't. I mean, I guess you could fake it, but probably not living with somebody, and hiding in the woods. Basically, you're probably not going to be able to fake those very easily. And there you were showing me plenty of royalty checks there. So yeah, Elvis and Make Room for Daddy. Yeah, one of your wives, I think, was related to the guy who made Make Room for Daddy, which you said was the first TV series, I believe, which I don't think I've ever watched it, but I have heard of it. Your mother's sister, yeah. I mean, who has a story like this? Who has a story that, has had 4 wives murdered, owned a publishing company worth huge amounts of money, had a case in the Pentagon, papers in the World Trade Center, and, no, Jeremiah, he's not that familiar with gematria. I think you said that they use it, but you don't know how it works exactly and that sort of thing. But Hugh, what we do, Jeremiah Gabbard and I, and we learned from Zach Hubbard, this process of gematria that is used by many members of the elite and that sort of thing to code messages, and they code their murders by it. They rig sports games by this system of gematria, and it's turning letters into numbers so that other people that have the ciphers can turn those numbers back into letters and understand how they rigged a sports game or an election or a news story or a murder or a sacrifice. That's what we mean by gematria, and we've been able to discover how all the big it's in a lot of movies, dude. Yes, it is. In fact, I talk about it. We've been able to discover how, for instance, in the Las Vegas shooting, how Paddock's name is equal to the diameter of the sun, and that he was in room 135, like Golden Gate Bridge is 135 in gematria, and the importance of 135, and how, and the same numbers in a little different order as 153, and Jesus caught 153. I almost did a video on 53 again today. It was interesting because the last time I did a video just about 53, they actually used gematria to strike my channel on YouTube on May 3rd. And I was talking about how its relationship goes to August 11, and the ban or the strike, or rather, the strike ends on August 11. So I was talking about 53, and so they gave me the strike on May 3rd, 5-3, and how it ends on August 11. It was 3 or 13, I forget now. So it hasn't ended yet. Oh, let's see. He's out in California. Yeah, I live in California and Oregon now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's born in, but he was born in Detroit, not too far from where I have relatives that live. And he, what was that town? It wasn't. Well, you had some. I think the governor took you into Warren, Michigan. The governor's children, where you were tortured and raped. I think that was Warren. There was a big case in Oakland County about missing children, and no doubt the police had a lot to do with this sacrifice. And I have no doubt if we get into that, we'll find boatloads of gematria that was associated with their murders, with the missing children, because the Fraternal Order of Police is extremely guilty of using gematria, especially around the Columbus area in Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. We have another decoder named Chigozie, 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 Truth, and he does a lot of police decodes about how the Fraternal Order of Police, and he lives in Columbus, uses this code all the time to kill people. Kidnapped me in Oakland County, chained me on Hoover Street in Oakland County. Okay, that's a little outside of Warren, if I'm not mistaken. I think Warren is in probably Wayne County, I think. And I think that might be where what's his name is buried. Gosh, see, my brain's like just all blurry. Oh my gosh. So you did say also that you think you have a distant relationship to the Queen of England, so that would be interesting. That probably goes through through the ship captain there, Bird. If I suspect if that was him that came into the New World and you're related to him, that probably somehow he's related to the Queen distantly. So that would be interesting to learn your story there. Oddly enough, my brother is, as we speak, working on our family history, and we have a very interesting history in England. I learned there's a castle called Bowes, and my last name is Bowe, and it talks about how Bowes was changed in many forms to Bow, to Bowe minus the S, BOW. So usually BOWES was the original, and there are different derivations of that name that have occurred throughout the years. And we actually have a castle in Bowes County. And oddly enough, my wife's maiden name is Richmond, and Bowes Castle was owned by the Richmonds. And so we have a history that goes all the way back to Henry II in the 1200s that we can at least follow our name's history somewhat. Now Daryl, my brother, is working on the exact descendants. So, okay, Warren's in Macomb County. Okay. Gotcha. So if you go to any library and look at Admiral Byrd's genealogy, you will know mine. Yeah, see, that's what I figured. So, yeah. I'm definitely going to look at your documents with Admiral Byrd because that is fascinating. And I'm also going to try to research his history. So, yeah, Admiral Byrd's history probably wouldn't be too hard to find. Yeah, so if you go through him and then his history is not too hard to find, we won't have too much trouble. Apparently, I have some interesting history myself, possibly, through the Bowes. Are you Rh negative like me? Oh, Hugh, do you know your blood type, man? That whole Rh negative thing, that's a whole conspiracy theory going on in and of itself. I don't know if you know about that, Hugh. Related to all the kings of Europe? Yeah, well, if you're related to one of them, you're related to all of them because they all go all the way back, all the way back through... well, at least through the Merovingians, anyway, which would start in the 500s, 500 to 800. Yeah, you are Rh negative. Yeah, I'm sure you are, Hugh. If you're related to them, I don't know if I am or not. I'd have to go get checked. I wouldn't be surprised. That would definitely go with our names history because we seem to have some royal connections there too, possibly. You have 2 sets of kidneys. Oh, that's interesting. You don't have 6 fingers too, do you, Hugh? 6 fingers and 6 toes? And you might. Oprah does. Oprah Winfrey has 6. Jessica Alba, I think, had 6 toes. A lot of celebrities have 6 toes. They say it's from that the same genes that follow the Rh negative bloodline. Yeah. Rh negative is the king bloodline, yeah. And usually associated with red hair and the Nephilim, as according to some theories. Yeah, spider fingers. Oh, okay. So you have the web. Is that like the webbing in between the fingers? Is that what that means? I'm not sure. I haven't heard the phrase spider fingers. Yeah, Jeremiah, I bet you and Hugh really need to get to know each other, man. Jeremiah, you got some amazing stories of your own, and I'll share with you what I know about Hugh, and I'm sure Hugh would be more than happy to tell you his story as much as possible as well. Hugh just wants to get his story out there. I mean, what they've done to him is awful and just unbelievable, just absolutely amazing. So you have blonde hair and a red beard. Okay, yeah, I got a little red beard if you can see it there. My kids all have red hair, and that comes through that Irish Rh negative bloodline. It goes through the Vikings that may come ultimately all the way from the tribe of Dan, possibly. So that's why I did a video here recently on how about how President Trump is probably from the tribe of Dan, and possibly that those descendants came into the New World and built the mounds long before Christopher Columbus. So there's a very big history there. But and I think the biggest population of Rh negative blood are among red-haired people in Ireland as well, if I'm not mistaken. So Scotland and Ireland would make a great deal of sense. And those, of course, Scotland and Ireland have okay, well, the people that came into Scotland and Ireland, well, they were the Vikings, okay, that took over in the 900s through the 1200s, okay. Then you had the Romans, but and the Celts and stuff that were there before them. But the Celts, I think, the original people there, I think even they came from the tribe of Dan, from the original migration outside of when the tribe of Dan left Israel way back in Lebanon, modern day Lebanon, way back around, I'd say it had been 1800 BC. And they were known as the shipping. That's why they were replaced. The tribe of Dan was replaced by the tribe of Manasseh because they wouldn't go to battle. They stayed in ships because they liked their trading routes, and they were like, well, to heck with our brethren, the other 11 tribes. We're gonna stay in our ships, and we're gonna stay to our trading routes. And those trading routes went all the way up into England. So I have no doubt that they have some heritage, even with the Celts. 3,000 years before the Vikings and other descendants of the tribe of Dan came through there. So you believe you're from the tribe of Levi, okay? The priestly tribe. Well, that would be interesting because the Levitical tribe would have had to have. Well, let's see. No, I would have thought they would have been more with the Jews because some of them. But I don't know. I just don't know that most of them were deported in 586 BC under the destruction of the first temple, and when the people were taken hostage and scattered. Well, they actually would have been the northern tribe was in 720 BC. So actually they would have been scattered in 720 BC, and then the Jews in 586 BC from the tribe of Judah. However, the Bible mentions that there were Levites among them even after. So there's some had to survive. So they could have gone, you could be through the Levitical tribe as they were scattered from the tribe of Dan in 720 BC, or they could have also grown up along with the Jews, the descendants of the tribe of Judah, and that were dissipated ultimately in 70 AD when the second temple was destroyed and the rest of them were cast out. I'd love to know your family history if you have a lineage genealogy, Hugh, that goes all the way back. Amanda Fuller, that is a name I haven't seen in a long time. Wow, Amanda, I used to work with her a long time ago. Gosh, she plays guitar really well. So King James is my family, as is Schofield. Well, of course, because if you're related to the Queen of England, then your ancestry would include King James, because all those people are related, like we say, all the way back to the Merovingians. So if you're associated with any of the queens, you're going to be associated with all of the kings and queens that go all the way back to at least 500 in the Merovingians. Now, it breaks down before 500, okay, because I don't really know for sure what happened before that and how the royalty, I don't know if, well, who would it have been? The last Roman emperor of the Western Roman Empire, not the Byzantine Empire, but who was related to who, but from the Merovingians to the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire fell in 479, and Odoacer came in and was the first leader after that. I don't know. The Merovingians began around 500, disappeared in 800. They didn't disappear. They just changed. Their names got changed, and then they became the Holy Roman Emperors and so forth. So that kept going after that. But between 470 and 500, I'm a little confused on how the lineage was passed down, or were they related to the Western Roman emperors, the Caesars and so forth? I'm not sure. That's a question I've been trying to figure out for a while. So I can trace the lineage, the kingly lineages back at least that far, but I'm not sure whether or not they continue. You can trace it all the way back to 3000 BC. Hugh, that is a history I'd be very interested in. I have a fairly good knowledge of history. I can go back thousands of years and give you probably an event in every century, at least back to, I don't know, 1800 BC at least or so, if I tried real hard. So I know so that would be something I would love to see if you have that in writing anywhere. That would be really fascinating. a lineage all the way back to 3000 BC. I've only met one other, well, I didn't meet. I talked to one other person online who told me that they had a lineage that they could trace all the way back to Abraham. You know, they actually have physical records in this little town that they live somewhere in the Middle East. So that's very interesting. Ionio was on all the Caesar's coins. Do tell me more, Hugh. You got to tell me more about this. I don't know who. John, that would be like Ionio. Is that John? Is that Latin for John? I'm not sure what you're saying there, so that'd be interesting to see. So who's all on here? You know, a lot of people come in and they're watching, but they never comment. So I don't know who's all on here. Originally, I was just going to come in here and just talk about, and actually it was kind of because of Hugh Squire that I was going to talk about it, because I had some people who've basically unfriended me, you know, more or less, you know, aren't talking to me a whole lot right now because I was willing to get Hugh's story out, and they're fearful, and they expect me to go through them, you know, like I need their permission or something, you know. I don't need their permission. I make up my own mind, you know. I don't walk on eggshells around people. I'm interested in the truth. Ianius was the Roman Senate, and he was on the coins handed to Judas for betraying the Christ of the Bible. And how does that relate to you, Hugh? Okay, that is definitely interesting. Okay, definitely a name I don't know. I mean, I know that you know, Pontius Pilate, there's been an inscription found with his name on it. Modern day Ionio family in Rome was one of my ASCAP. Oh, okay. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, that goes pretty far back. Now that means, okay, so the Ionio family is related to one of your composers, but is that guy related to you somehow? Is your composer related to you? So do you follow your descendancy somehow through him or with him or alongside of him somehow back to the Ionio family in Rome that whose picture was on the coins handed to Judas for betraying the Christ of the Bible? That is fascinating. Wow. Now, see, I thought Caesar was on the coin. So are you talking about Ionio he was in the Roman Senate? Let me think. So who was Caesar right then in 33? It was Augustus, and then it was right after Augustus. It was the one right after Augustus Caesar. I can't remember which Caesar it was. I did know, but, you know, can't remember everything. My Roman family in Italy composed songs for Richard Burton and Liz Taylor. So I assume Richard Burton is probably related to Tim Burton from Beetlejuice fame. The only movie Tim Burton made that was any good except for Batman, Beetlejuice and Batman. All the rest of his movies suck and are really weird. That's my opinion, okay? Feel free to disagree out there, guys. Nobody goes to hell for disagreeing with Greg Bowe. I try to tell people that all the time. I'm an INTJ, so I come across as a know-it-all and all that. But really, I'm just a person who is interested and likes logically to confirm the facts and isn't really all that interested in small talk and making personal relations and that sort of thing. You know, if somebody just talks to me and they just like straight into the facts, that's what I like. You know, if somebody talks to me, they want to talk about the weather, and they want to talk about, you know, their zit on their butt and how they're getting it treated at their next doctor's appointment and their medications that they're on. I'm probably just going to, you know, lose focus on what they're saying. If they start talking about their friends and that sort of thing, generally speaking, I lose interest. But, you know, if you just walk up to me and you just start talking about the facts, you know, that's what I like. And Hugh's that kind of guy, man. He'll just get right into it and he'll start telling you fact after fact after fact after fact. And he's like a living dictionary, a living encyclopedia of knowledge, and then you know, experience, the stuff that he's seen and been through. You know, Hugh, I think you're 66 years old at this moment. On July 4th was your birthday. Movies such as Barabbas and the crucifixion movies. Richard Burton was the generation before, in the 50s. Yeah, a little before my time. Anno, the name and likeness were on all of Caesar's and of Rome's coins. Okay, name and okay, that's interesting. I'll do some research on him. Yeah. So 66. So you got some history that goes way back. Before my time, anyway. I'm 41. So 25 years on me. And Kennedy was assassinated what year? 62? Is that right? 62? I think I can look that up, but sounds about right. Who else is listening out there that needs to just give me a hi? Let me know. How many people are out there right now listening to this? There's always like a whole 63. Okay, I was close. Yeah. 1963. Well, Amanda, you missed the part where I was talking about Hugh's big story, but Hugh was actually captured, raped, and tortured by the people who killed John F. Kennedy. So, very interesting story. And that's just a little bit of his amazing story. So I hope everybody's listening will take the time to get to know Hugh, learn his story as well as you possibly can. It will take you some research and time, but it's well worth it because this is the story that you're not going to hear on CNN or Fox News, okay? They're going to cover up all of it. And they're all on the same side, by the way. I know they like to pretend like they're opposites, but no, they're all hiding the truth. They're all hiding what really happened, not just to JFK, but they're hiding what happened on 9/11, which is related through what Hugh says to JFK, incidentally. And that's why Q was invented. QAnon, which I was starting to get into before I learned about Gematria, that is a story or a CIA operation to lead people away from the kind of truth that Hugh's talking about. Okay, if you think that QAnon is John F. Kennedy's brother is doing that, the one that was supposedly assassinated, maybe what, I don't know, but if you think that it's him, you're not going to find out the real truth of what happened to JFK. So that's why QAnon exists. And you're also not going to learn what really happened on 9/11, which is very much related to what Hugh has to say here. JFK was talking right to me just before he was murdered, which you would have been in 63. That would have made you 5 years old, Hugh. What was he saying to a 5-year-old boy at the time? Why was John F. Kennedy talking to you, a 5-year-old boy, just minutes before he was murdered? Because that is amazing. And why were you at the JFK assassination to begin with? Why were you there? Why were you there, and why was Kennedy talking to you when you were 5 years old? See, this is more of your story we haven't got into yet. I know I've got 50 pages of notes, but I've got to get more and more and more and get this story all down. There's just so much to your story. As were the next 3 Kennedys who were murdered. Yeah, Bobby, Robert, and John. All of them were working with me in Senate hearings as they were murdered. Interesting. So you were actually in the Senate, not as a senator, but I mean you were in the Senate at the Capitol undergoing hearings. See, that's more of your story I got to know about. You're on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. You were? Somebody got your story out a little bit? He started his speech off by saying to you, Tribune publishers, huh? Okay. Tribute to Robin Williams. Yeah, didn't you say you were talking to Robin Williams not long before he died too? Which that's... Gosh, there's a whole gematria decode that goes on very, very deep. Very, very deep into the Robin Williams. For instance, we're concerned about this August 11 being a date that might possibly see a large-scale attack on the United States, possibly on the Golden Gate Bridge, but it doesn't necessarily have to be if it happens at all. You were at Robin Williams' home when he died. Robin Williams was born on August 11, and it was clear from the I think he was... they said in the story that he died by strangulation by a necktie, that he killed himself, hung himself by a necktie on a doorknob or something like that. Both necktie and doorknob had the same gematria as sacrifice, so it was obvious that he was intended as a sacrifice, and I think showing a connection to something that might happen this August 11, possibly. There's a whole gematria code to this, Hugh. Um, Definitely, you might want to check into some of our gematria knowledge because it all relates to your story in amazing ways. And interestingly, yeah, Hugh, go back and if you don't mind, tell me about. I'd really like to know why J.F. Kennedy was talking to you on the day he was assassinated, and you were a 5-year-old boy. Is there anything you can tell me about that? Even just a few lines, because that's. I mean, were you there just watching it? Were you? I know you would have had to just escaped that prison from the governor's children that did those things to you. Okay, there's the Robin Williams part. I was at Robin Williams' home after leaving Jim Mars on a gold car. See, look how amazing that is. Robin Williams was sacrificed. Jim Mars was sacrificed before he got his home story. By the time I got home, Joan Rivers was also dead. Oh, wow. And I was also in the Mandalay area on 2015. Really? Geez, Hugh. Man, you got all of it down. How did they know you were going to be there? We know for a fact that the Las Vegas shooting was planned intricately in advance. I mean, the numbers are so strong on that one. But anyway, yeah, Google his speech. Yeah, oh, I know, I have. John Kennedy's speech. Yeah, I have Googled his speech and how he was talking about how secrets are. I can't use exact words he did, but it's abhorrent to have secret societies in America. I was filing my wife's murder charges, and the police knew my movements all year. That was for which one? At the Robin Williams murder, you were at the time filing your wife's murder charges. Oh wow! And so yeah, see, and just like we say, and just like Chikozy says, that the police are definitely part of this murderous squad. That they are part of the Fraternal Order of Police, a Masonic organization that does things by the numbers and kills people by the numbers. And here's Hugh. He's total proof. He's saying the police knew all along and helped coordinate these attacks according to his movements. That's amazing. That's crazy. Now, Hugh, is there anything at all you can tell me about why John F. Kennedy? Now, I mean, you were 5 years old. You may not know why. I get it. But what do you remember about that day, and why was John F. K. talking to you, and why were you there? Why were you there at the time they killed JFK? Okay, at the Mandalay, yeah, earlier. Why were they talking to? Why was the President of the United States talking to you just minutes? And I know he was going through in his car that it had no roof. It was a convertible. I remember from the pictures and the videos, I guess, if they're not all forgeries. I don't even know at this point if the videos from that time are forgeries or not. The entire state of Nevada won't allow me to say my own name or say I own Bottomline A and P. Yeah, well, that's interesting, Hugh. That they've definitely done a number on you, man. I'm trying my best to focus you in on Kennedy assassination. I really want to know like why he was talking to you. Why did they have? Were the people that were doing the bad things to you? Oh, you were 11 on 63. So 63. So you'd have been born in 53, 51. Okay, is that 66 years ago? Okay, I see. I can't put the numbers together in my head very well. I'm not looking at my notes at the moment, so. Okay, so you were 11 years old, so you would have a little bit more memory. So tell me, Squire, why was he talking to an 11-year-old? Okay, so I apologize. You weren't 5. You were 11 on the day JFK was murdered. Why was he talking to you? Were you there just to see him go by? Were you just interested? Was there some connection to the people that killed him abducting you? Was that why you were there for some reason? You got to fill in the details for me, man. I got to know. I got to understand this. I got to know why. Why were you standing around? You're part of the Kennedy family, so you were there. Okay. See, this is more that I need to know. Okay, but you being part of his family, like, how? How are you related to him? And is it because you were related to him that you were there that day? Is that that why you were there? He was getting ready to expose the secret societies in the Catholic Church that helped to murder him. Well, clearly from his speech, I don't need a PhD. That speech you were talking about that you wanted me to Google, that's exactly what he was getting at. Yeah, so I have no doubt that, and he printed his own money. And that hadn't happened since Abraham Lincoln's day, you know, where something besides a central bank was printing money. And of course, both of them were assassinated for it. And the very first thing that Johnson did on the airplane, as soon as he took the oath, was stop that from happening. So yeah, so it had to do with the secret societies and the central banks. So yeah, so maybe he was going to expose them in a greater way. And of course, you know, that's what everybody was hoping that this president was going to do, and that's people were believing QAnon, that he was in league with JFK Jr. and that you know that because of that, JFK Jr. and Donald Trump were going to start exposing this Illuminati and take away the secret, or fight vehemently the secret societies and all this. But I don't believe that for a second. I believe that you know, Trump is just as much a part of it. You can tell that from the gematria clearly, you know, how it was depicted, everything that he did just in the Simpsons cartoons. I mean, you don't even need gematria. Just watch the old episodes of the Simpsons and you'll see Donald Trump in there over and over, and Family Guy, and, you know, the exact same pictures of what he was doing that you can go and see news stories, and they're identical, like perfectly identical. I mean, it's you know, obvious that this was planned ritual events. And that doesn't happen if you're out there trying to expose them. You know, it happens if you're part of it. So I don't believe the QAnon story at all, that JFK Jr. and Donald Trump are working together to expose them. I was starting to get into it, but then, you know, you start putting the pieces together and you know that did not happen. And of course, Hugh says the JFK Jr. is definitely dead. So puts an end to that right there. So Jackie Bovia Kennedy is my family. I grew up with Wayne Bovia. He had just sent my family the first Susan B. Anthony coin that he minted after telling the Federal Reserve to get lost. that is amazing. That's crazy. I mean, gosh, man, I'll tell you, Hugh, listen, if somehow you have not been killed for this knowledge yet, what you need to do is write this book yourself, and then, I don't know, make copies of it and mail it to 10 different people anonymously or something, and have somebody anonymously print it. Somebody that can do this. You got to get all this stuff in one place, man, because this this is crazy, man. So your father and one of my murdered wives' fathers both served in the Navy with JFK in World War II. Now, see, I don't know the history of JFK well enough. See, I didn't even know that he fought in World War II. See, that's crazy. So you've been dead on arrival. Yeah, I know you was hit on the hit on the head with a hammer and left for dead once. I don't know about the other 2 times. If I write a book, I will be killed on the day I finish it. Well, I don't know, Hugh. Listen, if you do write a book, just don't tell anybody you're doing it. You know, you know. Just do it and don't say anything. And I don't know, you know, hand courier it away to somebody, and somebody will give it to somebody that'll give it to somebody that'll print it for you or something. I don't even know how to make that happen, man. But oh my gosh, it's got to. Yeah, Bush. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you said Bush did this too. I do know about this one. Yeah, Bush poisoned you with a cup of coffee, and then after, I think somehow you were poisoned and you were put on the airplane and the plane wrecked. So while you were poisoned, the plane wrecked and you survived the airplane crash. Did I get that story right, Hugh? Hugh, your stories are amazing, man. I can't even understand. See, I did get it right. Okay, so yeah, so George Bush Sr., who was head of the CIA, and of course that's why 9/11 happened. He's covering up this stuff. You know, and all the loose ends. And I'm sure you weren't the only one that they had to kill to make this happen, and just the victims on 9/11. I'm sure there were a lot of other loose ends and people that were related and knew this knowledge that they were tying up. Yeah, I know you do, Hugh. You briefly showed me some of them, but somehow or another, man, you got to get those documents somewhere safe. I don't even know. I know you're dealing with powerful people. I don't know how to do that, but at some point you got to get them things somewhere where they're not going to be destroyed. Because I mean, if they're going to destroy the Pentagon and the World Trade Centers to hide this, I guarantee you they're going to find those and destroy them really fast. So somehow or another, those documents have got to get in safe hands somehow. I think you have some CIA contacts that are decent people. Maybe you can get it to them or something. I don't know. Remember all the senators who wrote to me? Yeah, you showed me the letter. Who wrote to you before 9/11? Yeah, you showed me the letters. You told me that Senator Graham. I think you were talking about Senator Graham, the South Carolina senator. Or is it South Carolina? Yeah, I think he is. He was telling you about how the Oklahoma City bombings were going to happen before they happened. Did they also tell you that the 9/11 attacks were going to happen? I have to wonder about that. That would be interesting if they were conveying these messages to you. And all the House representatives knew me in the judiciary committees. Yeah, well, if you were testifying before, did you testify at the Capitol before the Senate? I mean, you were actually there in the Capitol building testifying. I mean, I guess if the senators would have known you from your testimonials, then I'm sure the House members would have known about you too. And after 9/11, they all pretend not to know me. Oh, okay. So yeah, they took the threats and took them pretty seriously. So even the House and Senate members are intimidated by, the Bush clan, and the Bush clan, of course, if you know about, okay, so you were in the Senate and House hearings, so of course they knew you. So that means you were actually at the Capitol building to participate in the hearings in Washington, D.C. So of course these people know you. We were rewriting the Berne Convention, which is something I don't know about. I have no idea what the Berne Convention is, bud. You got me on that one. I'll have to look that one up too, or you're welcome to tell me if you'd like. Fascinating history, man. Fascinating. See, this knowledge has to get out. So if you are listening to this, you are listening to history right here, man. You are listening to the real story about what happened to JFK and what happened on 9/11 from somebody who was in the middle of it, who was right in the center of all this stuff. And I asked you, well, why would you tell me this stuff, man? And I said, I make minimum wage, I work home health care. I have no special talents. I have a YouTube page, YouTube site, channel. Sorry, I can't think of the word channel. I have a YouTube channel that has 560 subscribers that I just started a few months ago, which is actually pretty fast growth, really. But nothing to be amazed at or anything like that. And I asked you, so why do you tell me this? Why are you so willing to give me this information? And I have to say I liked his answer. It's an answer that I can respect. It's the kind of answer that I would appreciate, that if I were in the same position. That's the kind of thinking that I would at least like to think that I would have. And he said, well, you're interested in truth. He says all people are equal, and you want to know the truth, so I'm going to give it to you. So we're all equal under the Constitution, and descendants of the people put this country together for freedom, and there's people like the Bushes who are trying to take that freedom away. And Hugh, I'll tell you, they have completely got into the minds that other Christians, other people at my church, they believe that the Bushes, and one guy stood up and was talking about how patriotic and Christian George Bush was and what a wonderful fella he was. And if they knew what you have to say, it would change their perspective. It'd turn them upside down. I mean, my Sunday school teacher is a West Virginia senator, not a federal senator, a West Virginia senator. And, I think he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the connections here. He doesn't understand what really happened on 9/11, and it's sad. And he thinks the Bushes are great people. I mean, and if you didn't know anything about the Hugh Squires story, if you just knew what happened or where the Bushes come from, that Barbara Bush is a daughter of Aleister Crowley, the guy that was on the Beatles' first album, Dr. Pepper, I think was the name of it. Hey, listen, I'm no Beatles fan by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even listen to music. This is not, You know, I always knew it was brainwashing from way back. You know, I understood that it was occult related. You know, I realized there were symbols on, so I never wanted anything to do with it. But, you know, Aleister Crowley was on the Beatles' first record, okay, on that picture. And that was he was actually okay. Aleister Crowley was involved in ritual sex magic. That was like his big thing. He was literally banned out of Italy by Mussolini in World War II because he was so wicked that even Mussolini couldn't tolerate him. Okay, that's how wicked this guy is. And Barbara Bush's mother was with Aleister Crowley, according to the Time of Life. In other words, 9 months before. Okay, you know. So at the time of life, she was born, you know, and it's just, you know, okay, if Daddy wasn't around, but Aleister Crowley was, and his whole thing was a big sex cult, and then out comes Barbara Bush, there's a pretty good, strong chance that she was, you know, Aleister Crowley's daughter. So, and that's why she killed Bush's sister, you know, as a ritual sacrifice by the numbers. You know, Zach Hubbard did a decode on the numbers of that sacrifice, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly something that would be easily looked up again and redone if you want to do the gematria of the sacrifice. Yeah, so the White Album, okay. Dr. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, okay. Yeah, Hugh, you know more about that than me not being you know, knowledgeable about music at all. I wouldn't get those names and albums and all that right, but I'm sure even the Beatles probably had some connection to Bottomline. Is that a stretch, or is that probably connected in some way? I'm sure the Beatles probably maybe you published them, which I don't even know. See, I know what publishers are with books. I know this is how ignorant I am, bud. You're dealing with a nobody here, but I know what a publisher for books is. You know, somebody puts out the books. I know what a publisher is for radio broadcasts. So I didn't even know that musicians have publishers per se. That's like, I guess I never thought about it or whatever. So that's how little I know about this industry. And your publishing company apparently put out most musicians and celebrity music for a long time. Captain Lewis fitted the Enola Gay, which I have seen in Washington, D.C. firsthand in the museum there. I've seen the Enola Gay with the nuclear bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Captain Lewis. Yes, all music, especially Motown and rock, is pointing me out. I was the publisher, even for the Beatles, right, Hugh? You were the publisher for the Beatles? And if that's correct, but I mean, just, you know, all this, you had to have been essentially, I'm sorry, I don't know, little burps or something here. Sorry if it's coming across. I guess I do have a mute button if I be careful. I can turn the microphone off, but I don't want to make sure I don't lose the sound connection here, so I apologize for burping on you guys. My card partner David Sinclair introduced the Beatles to Ed Sullivan. Really, Hugh? That is just, wow. Essentially, Hugh's trying to say that he was infinitely rich, basically. Hugh did tell me, you know, you talk about the Illuminati. He's basically it. He is the Illuminati. And that's essentially true, you know. I mean, that's, you know, you don't get into these groups without knowing the right people and participating in some crazy ways. So, and I'm sure, Hugh, you probably know how some of the sacrifices are related, of who had to sacrifice who to get where they are, and how people had to be killed in order to get the relations that they needed. And you may not know like the gematria of how they did it by the numbers, but I'm sure you know that this person had to kill, no, not you, Hugh, I know you don't, but I'm sure you know that the people who had to kill somebody to get to where they are and who they had to kill, and I'm sure you probably have some knowledge of how that works in some way, because, you know, we can find all these rituals by the numbers and how they do it according to solar eclipses and lunar eclipses and that sort of thing over and over and over again. So probably if you were related to the publishing, I suspect maybe you at least have some knowledge, like this person was killed in order to get this person, to the position that they were in. So yeah, many murders, and that's why I'm saying the truth of all the murders are still unsolved by design. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you suspect, Hugh, that the Jalea Davis murders in my neighborhood were possibly done by the publisher of our local newspaper. And I'd already made the connection. If you go back and look on Bow and Arrow on my YouTube channel, you will see that I did a whole series on the Jalea Davis murders. Jalea sounds like hallelujah, by the way, spelled almost the same. She died on the 11/19, like 9/11. So yeah, yes, her too. So, and I'd already made the connections in one of the videos, actually several of the videos, of how the newspaper clearly has some knowledge of her death because they did it by the pie ritual. They used pie every time they would report it. They did one story on Jalea Davis on 3/14, which pi is 314. They did another story on Jalea Davis on the 227th day of the year. 22 divided by 7 is 3.14, or pi. So they did this as a ritual by the number. And then Hugh says, yeah, from what I know of my history and stuff, yeah, probably, somebody there, the publisher or something, has something to do with this murder. It's a logical connection. So that's a pretty strong validation of some research that I've already done about a local murder. And that's freaking amazing, that Hugh, to even have that confirmation right here on video. And I am looking up to see whether or not some of the people that worked there, if they could have any relation to Masonry. And maybe I did find some of that information. Maybe. Notice. Okay, and Amy's friend, Miss Holt, was just murdered. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that, Hugh. I got people that are afraid to put out your story, and do interviews with you right now, so I don't know. But I'm not saying anything you haven't already put out on Facebook, so I'm just repeating knowledge that you've already said 1,000 times. I'm just saying the same thing. So I haven't put anything new out that you haven't already said. So hopefully it's nothing coming after me. But certainly hope not. Well, anyway, but they came after Zach Hubbard one time. Crashed in through his. You should be saying, well, I appreciate that, Hugh. But yeah, it's not like I'm getting out to a whole lot of people with my 500 subscribers, I have posted all of this on my own videos for a year. Yeah, so I know. So I'm just saying the same thing that anybody that watches your videos can know. So, and definitely interesting. Hugh, is there anything else you want to say, man? I feel like we covered a lot of good territory here. By all means, just keep telling us what you want to tell us, and because nobody has a story like yours, Hugh. Nobody, absolutely nobody. Nobody knows where Jimmy Hoffa was buried except for Hugh Squires. And actually, I was trying to find that G&T. Is it G&T? G&T Auto. They sell cars. Is that where Jimmy Hoffa was buried? At G&T Auto, like G and T, like this. G&T Autos. Yeah, like that. G&T, because that's what I found in New Haven, where he said he was buried. I found a G&T Auto. I did not find a G&G. I think I heard you say G&G, but I couldn't find a G&G. I did find a G&T. You have 5,000 friends on Facebook. Yeah, you're definitely not hurting there. I have some new info and I need to talk to you in private about. Maybe we can do a video about it in the future. Yeah, sure. G&G. All right, Hugh, if you can find G&G Auto on Google Earth or give me the coordinates or something, I'll try to locate it. I was not successful when I used Google Earth to try to find it, and just Googling the name of it. So yes, on 26 Mile Road, I have heard of 26 Mile Road because I have relatives in Monroe, Michigan, and my brother lives in Adrian, and other parts of Michigan. So I have actually heard of 26 Mile Road. So G&G Auto is on 26 Mile Road. So I'll try to go on Google Earth and just scan up and down there until I find it, hopefully. It's a quarter mile from the New Haven Cemetery. Pardon me, I know it's not great to make notes while on the video because people want to hear you talk, but I definitely want to write this down on my notebook. So, because I'm going to do some more research to try to find that. G&G Auto, and that's a car sales place? Is that what, or is it a car repair place? Do they sell cars or repair cars at G&G Auto? And this is the location where the house used to be, where Jimmy Hoffa was buried. He was buried at somebody's house, but that house was destroyed and is now owned by G&G Auto, apparently. So a junkyard. Okay, G&G Auto is a junkyard. Okay. So I'm writing that down right now on 26 Mile Road, a road I have heard of. A quarter mile from New Haven Cemetery. That'll make it a lot easier. Now, I have to wonder, since you've put that out, I wonder how many people have called G&G Auto, and they're probably like, oh, not another person thinking that Jimmy Hoffa is buried on my property. I can imagine being that person working at the junkyard saying, oh, no, not another one. Can you imagine that? That would be very interesting. That'd be very interesting. I can't believe that I have been live with you for an hour and 21 minutes and have not been cut off yet. That's fascinating. So, quarter mile from New Haven Cemetery, G&G Auto. Your sister's mom was dating Jimmy Hoffa, and I already told some people in the local mafia he is there. And so what they do? Did they go dig him up, Hugh? Or you think they did? Maybe? Do you think they went and why would you tell the local mafia? I mean, that's maybe I don't understand that. I don't even know exactly who killed Jimmy Hoffa or exactly why. You did tell me a little bit. It's in my notes. You told me a little bit about why he was killed, but honestly, I can't remember. I have to go look through my notes again. I already told some people in the local mafia that he's there. Yeah, and I want to see. I want to know whether or not they went and dug him up, or to hide him again. Or is there a reason that he has to stay hidden? Is there some reason that these people need to keep him hidden or something? Maybe. I mean, honestly, how many people can say, yeah, they know where Jimmy Hoffa's buried? I can now, or at least within. I can find the property anyway. Hopefully, if I find it on Google Earth here soon. What did Kat tell you the FBI does when I call them about dismembered, murdered kids? Yeah, they hang up, right? Yeah, so the FBI hangs up on you, but I think, didn't you say you have some CIA protection or something? Is there anybody in the CIA that might help you look this stuff up, or this dismembered, murdered kids thing? I would like to do some gematria on some of that. Try to find what I can. Honestly, there wasn't much about it online about the Oakland murders, so that's probably been covered up online too, no doubt. I definitely, if anybody can find any links or any sites that talk about the Oakland murders, where a bunch of kids were killed back in the 60s and 70s, I guess. Oh, okay. So you can't tell the FBI, so you told the mafia. Okay, I get you. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe maybe they can get the information out, because I think, anyway, I don't understand, but I think he would have been a big part of the mafia, right? Jimmy Hoffa. So you're telling his crew where he's buried, basically. Last kid murdered was Tim King, out of the Oakland murders. Okay, Tim King. I'm going to write that down, because Tim King last kid murdered in the Oakland County murders. The King family are my cousins, and I live with a King family member right now. Now, you've told me about 1 billion different people are your cousins. So I think you're talking about like second, third, and fourth cousins and that sort of thing, because you have cousins all over the place. Of course, so do I. I've got 22, I think it is, 22 or 23 first cousins on my mom's side. And all of them have kids, pretty much. So I've got a ton of second cousins. The King family are my cousin. I live with a King family member right now. That's interesting. So does that mean like, is that any connection to Martin Luther King Jr.? Is that any relation to, who was the other guy? Rodney King? Rodney King that was dragged out of his semi. Are all these people related to that story by any chance? That'd be interesting to know. Martin Luther King and Rodney King. So I wonder if the kids that are killed, are they all like, are they just random kids that were killed, or are they all related to some higher established people, Illuminati members, if you will, or mafia members, and their relatives and that sort of thing, or are they just random people that they picked up? They were kidnapped and left on Gardner Street. Gardner series on Earth and is my mother's sister. Yeah. Yeah, make room for daddy. Wow, man. I'm actually going to have to go back and watch this whole video over again and just write down everything that you said, because this is going to be part of my notes. Like I say, I got it roughly about 50 pages of notes already. So, wow, as interesting as this is an hour and a half long video so far. So I should probably just go ahead and stop here, Hugh. You're always welcome to come on anytime. Hugh, also feel free to post anything you want on my Facebook page. Every time you tag me, I try to share it anyway, but you're always welcome to post it. Neighborhood and yeah, there's my mother's sister. Come on. Gacy visited me, as did the person you know as Ted Bundy. Oh, wow. Man, the connections here are like a spider web. It's like my family history. You start doing your family history and it just trees out and just gets bigger and bigger. Well, your spider web is, dang, it's like the frickin' Spider-Verse and Spider-Man. It's just a big web, man. All right, man. I appreciate it. So we'll talk later, and I'm going to end it here. So if you're watching on Bow and Arrow on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe.